Okay, so hi everyone, I'm back. I just wanted to give you an update. So I ended up leaving this the way it is. I was frustrated. I added too much black to begin with, did not expect the pigment to expand the way it did. Just a lot of frustration. And what happens when you're frustrated is that you become impatient and you start making more and more mistakes. And I don't know if you could tell, I had a lot of ink puddle here and I had to try to spread it out. And it was just, it was just frustrating. So I've been working some stuff out in my head of how I'm going to approach this. What I'm going to end up doing is push all of it back in from the top and the bottom. And again, I'm just like you. I'm learning. There's a journey, and I try to teach others what I've learned, and I may have more experience, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get frustrated. So it's just a lesson for y'all as well. Don't let frustration take over. Just let it go and come back to it later. And maybe I could set this aside and then work on something else and then come back to it when I feel level-headed and the fact that maybe I've worked it out in my head, because you tend to work these things out in your head and then you have this like weird drive to come back to it. And that's the drive. I had it yesterday evening. I just, I was about to come to it and I had to take care of some family stuff, but I'm back. So again, it's okay. It's okay to be frustrated, as I was. It's part of the process. It's the part of the learning process, and it's part of this art journey. So, all right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tackle it from one side, and I'm gonna go to the center. So I'm gonna try to work just this one area here, and go towards the center and to this side. All right. All right. Let's do it. All right. Let's get my brushes ready. And I haven't added gold yet, but I'm not ready to add gold yet. I need to work the color out first before I add gold, in my opinion. Okay, just making sure that's moving. All right, let's do it. I got my blow dryer set on hot. Let's do... So what I'm doing here is I want the ink to pull some of that color back out, the pink and the blues and so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm pushing it back, but I'm also like looking at the color to see if I can pull some of that out as undertones or underlayers. Like right here, you can see. I'm just going with the lines. I may have to pick some of this alcohol up
And I'll show you how to do that. Just with a napkin. So nobody said this was easy, all right? So this takes time and practice. So don't be frustrated if you don't get it on the first try, right? Even the most talented artists, I've gotten feedback that say that it's really difficult and it takes time. Like, it reminds me of watercolor. Watercolor is difficult. I think watercolor is more difficult than this because once watercolor is set, like once you put watercolor down, wherever water goes, it goes and you can't take it back off. At least this gives you the ability to take it back off if you need to. So I'm running on cold right now. The air temperature of the blower is set to cold. All right. So we're gonna squeeze some alcohol here and push it through the edge. I'm trying to lighten some of these colors, pull the colors out from where they were. Need more ink. Or, I'm sorry, alcohol. All I'm doing is just like lightening this up. A little bit at a time. I just keep pulling the alcohol back out and then back in. But I don't want it to go too far because I've already got some nice lines here. So if you get this like weird finger stuff, you just connect it with a brush and it should be okay. Don't be afraid to guide it with a brush where you want it to go. It's okay. So as I'm looking through this, as I'm looking at it, I wanted to explain kind of thought process. So I'm going through this and I'm lightening this area up, but it feels like it's still too dark. So what I have to do is I have to get some napkins. And I'm going to douse this with alcohol. And what I'm going to do is try to absorb some of the ink because it's too much ink for where it's at. It's just too much to try to resolve. And even if I push this in, which I am, and you see all this beautiful blue stuff underneath, it's just too much concentrated in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you. I'm going to pour the ink and just wipe the alcohol off. Okay, and this will allow me to add more just other colors, because I think the purple, this ink is too much. The black, I added too much black. So there's a lot of beautiful stuff happening inside of this, but it's just too much for the pigment. Too much pigment. So I'm just kind of blending it as I go. There we go. Okay, so that's a lot of ink, as you can see here. That's a lot that just got picked up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the alcohol back to it in little amounts. Again, not going to go crazy with the color. And I'm going to add that pink that the client wants. And it still has the purple there. It's just, now I'll have to blend it into here. So what I'll do there is, let me just play with this first. Get this the way I want it. Well, that wasn't enough alcohol, so we're going to do that. So this is where I connect the lines, right? So from here, I'm going to connect. From here, I'm going to connect. I'm going to draw my separating line. And you start seeing stuff happen. I load my brush with the alcohol when I do this. I'm not worried about it not connecting right now. I'm just like trying to do the direction, the guidance of the alcohol while it's wet. See, so I keep pouring and pushing. Again, you can't be afraid of this medium. You cannot, because you won't be able to experiment enough to do really cool stuff. You got to be able to let it let it go, and just see what comes out of it. And all I'm doing right here is I'm just brushing the pigment away from the canvas so I can push it towards the edge of where I want it to be. And I'll push it back and around. And so I haven't touched this area yet. That's okay. I'll keep. I need to keep lifting and moving. So I'm gonna put alcohol on this side now. And let it sit for a little bit. Make sure I take my cup with my alcohol in it. I don't know if you can see this right here. I just so you can see how I'm like moving this around. So now the tissue paper that I used was not good. It's just napkin. I should have used paper towels, but I think I'm too lazy to go get it, and I should. So I'm gonna pick this paper towel, this tissue paper residue off, so it doesn't affect the way the ink lays down. See, again, look, I'm literally wiping it down. That's okay. You can't be afraid of this medium, like I said. So I'm trying to bring in this effect of it coming in from all this convergence of areas, converging from all the corners into the piece. I want these areas of like richness of color, and that's what this is doing. So I need a little bit, I need more alcohol. So now, try to connect it. Bring in the alcohol in through the areas. Using a round brush. Pay this area back. Need a couple more lines over here. So okay, I'm left-handed, so it's really difficult with a blow dryer. I need to make sure I hold the blow dryer with my right hand and try to do my brush strokes with my left, only because it's not as easy. I'm ambidextrous, but when it comes to a brush, I'd rather use my left hand. So what I'm doing here is this area, I'm just fading it back. Just to start. So any spots that I have, I just like to just kind of push it out. Define these lines a bit. So I'm just moving the brush where I want the alcohol to go, and it just kind of follows it as I do it. I just want to make sure it fits. There we go. So you can kind of see how, plastic. There we go. You can kind of see how this is the area that I've worked. I've got all this left, which I'm going to lighten down. I need to lighten this down even more. And then bring in some of the green. I want some of that mermaid color seeping through. I've got some of the pink, but there's still more work to do here. Like I still need to pull in and bring in the green. So let's go to this side. It's still too dark, and I'm pretty sure the client's not gonna like it this dark, so I'm gonna have to pull back more. Now we're gonna add the green. I added pretty much a lot. Let it sit and then push it out. Not worried about that area. Right now I'm just worried about this area. So again, you come in with the brush. I'm going to connect some of these lines together. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just filling up my container, my little, this little needle container, so I can pinpoint where I kind of want the alcohol and play with that with my brush. Again, pulling the color. So I'm using this method to layer it. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll zoom in with the camera so you can see kind of what I'm doing. I'm bringing the light back into it, meaning I'm pushing that color back out and using the brush to make more concentrated lines of area. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is get another cup and pour some clean alcohol, because I'm noticing that the alcohol that I'm using is sturdy now. You know, it's got a lot of the black in it. You can see the cup. It's really dark. So I'm moving that alcohol and it's not, you know, it's not leaving me the white area that I like. So I'll clean this brush out. There we go. So now, as I place alcohol, Just leaving me more clean area to push the ink to. And it'll eventually get dirty again, and I have to clean, use another cup. Okay, now I'm going to move over here. Start pushing. Where's my tripod? Start pushing. Want more layers? I just add more of this alcohol. And what it does is it doesn't overlap itself. So I don't know if you can tell what it's becoming here versus what it is here. Again, it's gonna be a lot of rework, a lot of going back. What I would advise, and this is a lesson to myself as well, is to start in small areas instead of coating the whole canvas. That sometimes works when it's one color or maybe two colors, but if you're not sure about the pigmentation of the ink, like I wasn't, I would do it in small sections. Like start from an area and just like go off. Now the base on this is really nice. The base coat is really nice. Because of the bluish tint in nature, and it's got some magenta to it as well. I think this black has some really good undertones. It's not easy. I added too much. It's too dense. The pigment is really strong, and I just did not expect that. And it's part of the learning process as you do it. So right now I'm just adding some detail areas here, pushing the ink to a little lighter space. Trying to lift the ink, as you say. There we go. Some interesting just areas to look at as you move close into it. You can see some really interesting. I do this with all my pieces just to add effect and movement, because for me, my pieces evoke, there's fractures and tears in my work, and there's also a lot of energy, a lot of, as you can see here, like everything's just converging in, and we're gonna have something here that's gonna, the convergence is either gonna be a very thin line, or it turns into just more convergence, like, but wider strokes, so that it looks like it's like a river, right? Like you have, when a river is really, the mouth of the river is really small, the water's just surging through, and there's all these little lines of power. And then as the mouth opens up, it's still the same. It's still, the power is still there. It could still take you away. It just doesn't look like it can, because those strands are opened up. The mouth is open. So I'm going to take another break, I think, and I'll come back to it. I feel much better about this. It's either going to work or it's not going to work, right? And what's the worst you can do? You just learn from this experience. If this painting didn't work, then okay, well, I learned from it. I learned what to do next time. So stay tuned. I'm just going to take another break, and I'll cut back in. All right. Thanks again.
So stay tuned for part 3. Sorry this video was so long. I wanted you to hear the commentary of how I worked through it. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you, everyone. Askari Art.